k'omuntu.
Mwanchumo rigere Y'Ensoko Tv ne mambye ndengia seri tukerigalia merongevere ne limo asumutinyi gatano akabero mwaka w'echili fuibera merongevere na gatano na limo nokugena kwana kwa bukirubya na bwigo kwagendera bye mambye bono asemerubiri asubunchiruli asega sina kereke mukirio gokora na bwigo nogendera tukubwate merubiri yonsi Y'Ensoko kurwa chinsa 12 cheke mambye gwekera boni gachiaragire enyene chideka nkego chia itirenga kitugo chaka na goswa somurubiri yega Etorobini go chakira bono gweka chinsa isano ne mochia bono basaso kumurikira na gokwanira aliagendera tokorekana asemambya ya bono tusange ase obwamo wetera senchira yo motanda bwekerero asensemo ya YouTube Y'Ensoko TV namba ya mawasiliano kwenye wetere nsabwiriane Ishmael Mogere. Asomo chakane mambya ya bono abaiburi babana bagosoma ase skuru ya kura igotoka busamarense moye bunge ya West Mugirange County ya Nyamira nigobe murunganiri igoro yo kubwata omolera ase skuru eyo ase ntunda yende ya kabere gukiera abwigoro bagosanga nabaraliya nigo barure nigo babolire abatenereri be skuru eyo bayikiranie amaboli ayo abobuna nkike gucha osenkike gucha kyomulero yo ogendera ko baserenene gucha ase abaiburi bunekubwatia
around yelige skuru ya mtote biringa nkiya sambe skuru amangana ya kaera nande ya na kira twate banga ndoli ko rugaiga igotoko baga iga mbakete kayo mweli tumanye nganke ndra ta skuru na nge go sambe skuru yetu.
Last round shule iliungua mpaka ngaiya ngosokie bintu kure chido mume. This round emetere sikari nje nasokia tafadhali abararia tokonye kenenga lige skuru ebuna abararia kuna shida kwa shule ekore litangani ichibu ntura linyora yabere ya kabere ichibu ntura nyora tukabekero jifaini tukabekero ntobians tulilipa kila kitu zero balance bono roje naenda yabere ya kabere tutaingia wapi sasa abararia hii shule yetu iko na shida fulani omo principal abalimu baye nijiwoka siaye atwali chini
kaya ndete sukuru yeya moto tabi na ndema hotel siro parents to gakane 1500 baiboli ntoranga to akane 1500 to anjirane una abaiboli wana siro parents nga kito wakana siro parents adega ina de sukuru ari yayi wana kito kwa
bono der abate bataliringa nga yayi kurwa bisi kurwa bisingo sambete no mwalimu osana abalimu osana abana nge classroom na lero ningo nande kurugesona abana kibasa ambara ero nande kurugesona nande abana koyora baruro
ongora tebi abaigori pole bakura asokole mererie turibwe tangani ne ya kabire nande ya korreki ya beire na kabire botambase shide koba ewe yue minetinga abantu bakurunse bo mombokoletiki mboyo abantu baserebeka ine kero monda atete gukora buna koletiki buna tagete na nonje ngosabaiga kura nero tobwate skuru go tweteria abana koruga abaigori baito na bataka tai obisi bagokora buna bande bari chitauni chinde abaigori batigire gotore chichae nande mambi baseri gungo mwana oseri we skuru visirikale rare korosi 10 ongo saba masaba korwe skuru eye nande abaigori barangeri kubonsi pi baikaransamo nabakorie gasi elinda abantu babwa
asense muyendo musasiroti otenete parish ya Rangenyo ime ye county ya Nyamira Bernard Nyangeri nigabolira abantu batwerera na boigo bari bariganie omurembe singa kichonsi asemesengerekano gakoerera igoro gusega kwerera igoro yesabari ya emyaka 25 yobokorera buno musasiroti nigatebira ne sabari ya renge ntambe gentuke kogera akwariganie misenene mukubiyogo cha se parish yo eri gucengera na kwerana lyambu ya gucia somanene ase okobwa asokumubwatsia se sabari ya emyaka 25 gakuru jumbe yaye abene nigasabire balia baguche gwikirana abo bane kyo batwererwa nene mono chinga kichi amaberera agendere tukwenekiwa agesiasa
naende rero buna naikeire igombwate omochengo monene kiagera nonya emechando kerororo n'obuya borororo nakorire emirimo eyeiga rero ntagete gwakera Nyasaye mbuya mono kiagera naereirie abanchi ba Nyasaye naincho omonyene buna omonto naende buna omosasiroti igo mbwate omogoko ekiagera nakorire emirimo eri nabwenete gokora koreng'ana na chinguru nabwate koreng'ana buna abanto baito bonsi. Lakini ase ense yatomenyete igebwate amang'ana agocha na kogenda igo tore ase chingaki chinkong'u buna bono ase ense yaito ya Kenya nabo tobwate chibura buru chigosoka korwa ase amagani ao ya abanto. Eserikali egenderete gotogambera nebwate okogani kwaye gwokogendera gochibosio na abanto mbaro babwate obote boniga gwokorora ng'a mbasoe gochimiga abu na baro bakore egasi yabo. Igo bono chinkwano ntobwate chia abanto ara kabere goika ekerengo buna noe na abakristo bane nkoereria ekanisa ime na baro bwigo bare korwa ase chinsemo echibere goika ekerengo buna ekero okobategerera na bakonyora abanto mbaroro bagwaka chinkoi bateba ng'a omogambi yaito mbuya agendererete eserikali mbuya ere na abande mbaro bagoteba ng'a ui twakure. Bono inche buna omosasiroti ekondo yane nokobaarigania moiche mwetegerere Nyasaye abakwanere ebuku yasomwa twabwa korengereria ase obwamo lakini ase omweri bwa rituko egento gosaba nkeri ng'a ensi yaito etigare koba kere n'omorembe abanto banchane naende togenderere gochibosio.
Asense mwende magayo maiwe kiama kia DCP Rigathi Gachagua korwa kuboria gochia asabagani gose abatali korwa isikoyense ya Kenya koratenenia asige kagotarense ya Kenya gwiko mwako gocha sengenchi obosagani chibura boro na boigo kuboru kwa morembe kwenderete kwenekiwe imeyense nigabara ikorwa sorongo rwa pwani bagikeirwe enkwane iyo bagukwana nigo bairere buna ogotiga gocha kwa batali imeyense nigo kora echie kore maria uchumi yense meyo na igokwirerense gotenyorera kende gionsi.
Kwanza kwa niaba ya magavana wenzangu, tumekutana hapa leo na viongozi wote wa pwani, wakiwemo wabunge, maseneta na magavana. Mengi mtaelezwa na wale tuko nao mawaziri wetu na wengine, viongozi wengine. Lakini nichukue fursa hii kwa niaba ya wenzangu magavana, viongozi hao wote kulani matamshi ya jana ya kiongozi wa DCP Mheshimiwa Rigathi Gachagua kusema kwamba yeye anakataza watalii wakuje Kenya na anakataza uchumi ama wawekezaji kuja Kenya. Tukisimama hapa sisi kama viongozi wa pwani tukijadiliana kwa muda ule tumekaa kwa masaa, moja ya hizo agenda ambazo tumezigusia ni hiyo ambayo ninaongea, ambayo inatutamausha. Kwa sababu gani? Ukisema watalii wasije Kenya wanaathiri pwani. Kwale, Taita, Mombasa, Kilifi, Tana River, Lamu, sote tunategemea utalii. Taita Taveta, sote tunategemea utalii. Tayari tuko na mradi mkubwa ambao waanze mambo ya mafuta pale Lamu. Ukituambia wewe kwamba hutaki wawekezaji waje Kenya na watalii wasije Kenya, sisi watu wa Kilifi, na hii inamuonyesha ubinafsi alionao. Sijamsikia kwa mtasari wake akisema kuanzia sasa kahawa isiende nje tena, chai isiende nje tena, kwa sababu chai inatoka kwao. Lakini utalii usije kwa sababu unaathiri mtu wa pwani. Sisi nataka kumwambia Gachagua, kama wewe siasa yako umeibase na hiyo kupenda kwenu mpaka kahawa na chai iuzwe, lakini wa pwani wasipate utalii, vijana wetu wafutwe kazi, halafu wanataka kuzunguka hii pwani, wewe tafuta biashara nyingine, kwa sababu sisi kama viongozi hataruhusu. Sisi tunategemea utalii. Sisi tunategemea uchumi wa wawekezaji. Bandari ya Kenya iko hapa pwani na Lamu, Mombasa, Lamu. Ukipata tusiweke wasipate wawekezaji, watalii wasije tena Kenya. Umetupangia nini watoto wetu? Umetupangia nini uchumi wetu? Umetupangia nini? Na katika ubinafsi wako sijakusikia ukitema kwa hiyo taarifa ya mikutano yako ya kwamba chai isiuzwe tena, mpaka Ruto aende, chai kahawa isiende tena mpaka Ruto aende, lakini ule uchumi ambao unatudhuru sisi wakazi wa pwani ndio wewe umewekea mkazo sana. Naweza nataka tukwambie, si kama viongozi wa pwani tumekubaliana kwa kauli moja, sisi viongozi wa pwani tutaunga mkono William Samoei Ruto kwa tutam. Wewe ujipange na watu wako, na sisi tumejipanga, na sisi pia tutaongea na, si kila mtu ana watu wao. Ukisema unaweza ongelea watu wenu kwa kalao, hata sisi tuongelesha watu wetu wa pwani. Huwezi kuwa na monopoly ya kuongea na watu wenu, lakini si viongozi wa pwani wanaongea na watu wetu. Kwa hivyo hata wewe utasikiza amri ya watu wa pwani na viongozi wa pwani. Hata sitatoa directions. Umetoa kwenu, unasema natoa kwenu, sitatoa yetu. Lakini utatuharibia utalii, koma kuingilia mambo ya utalii, koma kuingilia mambo ya investment. Asanteni sana. We've
always said this for the longest time ever, that the likes of Gachagua have their interests have never been with us. There was a time we were called that we were not shareholders, and now on issues that happened in a very, very isolated way, you're asking that one of the major sources of income for this particular region and for the country in general to be denied, and that is an element of tourism. Is a very, very saddening. But mine is just to say a big thank you and congratulations to the members of parliament and the senators to actually did what they did, because God knows if this is the kind of caliber of people who want to call themselves as leaders, it's pretty shameful, pretty shameful. And I concur with the sentiments of my brother that people don't talk about issues that are going to be affecting their regions, but then when you come up with issues that are so hatred in nature, that by killing the economy of this region, you feel that people will end up feeling more destabilized and that votes will go less, and less is truly wanting.
Unajua, kwa miaka mingi sana kunayo mawazo ya kuhujumu uchumi wa maeneo fulani, na hiyo ni sababu msingi moja ambayo sisi kama watu wa jimbo la Pwani tunamuunga mkono nao Rais Ruto, kwa sababu ni siasa ya inclusion na hasa katika mambo ya uchumi. Lakini si mshangao kwa wengine kufikiria kwamba kunena ama kutenda mambo ya kuzidi kuleta umaskini katika maeneo yetu ndio njia yao. It's their norm to sabotage our economic activities, to see that we prosper. It's their norm. They've been doing it for years. So we knew who they are. And we keep saying, we've heard Gachagua criticizing almost every project that is outside his area. He began by giving Rironi Summit a very bad name. Then the rail, the Asia that is going to Kisumu. Now he's targeting the tourism industry. And our economy in the region is driven by the service industry. But he never criticizes or even attempt to speak around the project that happens in the areas. For example, we know of the Mau Road, 30 billion. Mumemsikia akisema ni mbaya? Mmewahi kumsikia akisema hii barabara ya Kiambu 30 billion ni mbaya ama inaharibiwa jina? Lakini ikifanywa mradi nje ya maeneo anayeita kama yake na si yake, kwa sababu kuna Wakenya pale ambaye wana busara na watakuja kumwelewa tu, agenda yake ni kupoteza watu. Sasa unatutarget sisi kama watu wa jimbo la Pwani. Hapa mahoteli yanawaajiri watu, restaurants zinawaajiri watu, zinategemea utalii. Ukiambia utalii wasije, na tena unasema sijui paka mwaka sijui gani, kwa sababu hana agenda ya watu hapa, hana imani na amani na, and it's in the entire republic. If it is not about the mountain, then it is nothing. And you assume you can give direction. Mimi napenda hiyo upuzi wake ambao anasema wacha nipeane direction. Peane direction kwa nani? Kama unaenda rough, tutaenda rough. Yes. When you touch our uchumi, we will touch you personally. Yes. Because we can't employ the hundreds of thousands or millions of the young people that work in the coastal line wakifutwa kazi. Or you have now seen the biggest standalone investment, foreign investment, the biggest standalone foreign investment is earmarked for Lamu. You have had 2.1 trillion being invested in Lamu. All of a sudden, you are a concerned leader and you're saying investment should not come to Kenya. Simply because for the first time, Lamu has been earmarked for a mega project, a mega investment, which you know very well, when you open up the opportunity for such an investment, others will follow because it will simply become a logistics hub. Because it is in Lamu, you want to destroy it. If it was in other places, and by the way, sisi sio mahasidi, we never discourage investment in other places. They can continue. Like the way they set up the special economic zone in Naivasha, it's okay. Let it grow because they are as Kenyans as we are. But you cannot give a positive project or a good project a bad name for political reasons. And therefore we want to caution him. Safari asitujaribu. Kama yeye anajua kuchocha, hata sisi tunajua kuchocha. You know, we know how to chocha, and we can chocha. Finally, I want to say that we want to thank the team that came from Nairobi, led by the PSS, Belio and Raymond and Dagar and Jacobs, to have had a discussion on our security generally, to ensure tuna usalama katika jimbo hili, and also to enhance our registration and identification. Kwa sababu usalama wetu ni bora kwa kila mtu, ndio maisha yetu. So tumekuwa na mazungumzo muhimu sana hapa ya kusema vile tutaendelea kuweka usalama, vile watu wetu for far too long walikuwa wamefinywa na mambo ya extra ama excess vetting ya vitambulisho. Sasa they are playing catch up. Kuna watu wamekuwa watu wazima. You'll be surprised there are people as old as 40, 50, but they've never 70. They've never had an opportunity to own an ID card. So we take that very seriously, and we feel encouraged that the government is here to support the coastal people and Kenyans largely, because this region is a diverse one. Here we have every tribe, every race, every religion. So the residents of the coastal region, for once, they now have been recognized, and the deliberate efforts been put forward to ensure that they are registered as Kenyans, they have an identification, and matters security to continue to enjoy peace, stability and tranquility is very critical for us because we are a service economy largely. We are a logistics hub, and therefore we're happy to have had these discussions. Every leader has been brought on board. Every comment and sentiments have been captured, and going forward is that we'll continue to work in unity to ensure we transform not only our lives, but the lives of the Kenyan people for their better, for this generation and the future generation.
I just want also to emphasize on what we have discussed here. And first of all, just to emphasize, I think Honorable Rigathi Gachagua has now demonstrated the kind of leader he is. If you look at the tourism sector, it's a whole ecosystem. Within tourism, you get a taxi. Within tourism, you inspire property investors. And therefore, if somebody is urging the international community not to visit Kenya, and this is somebody who wants to lead Kenya, then we now know that he cannot be able to lead this country. And therefore, in our meeting, and I want also to be very clear that we reaffirm our support for Dr. William Samoei Ruto for 2027, because we have seen that this is a president who has an agenda for Kenya. He has an agenda for the coast region. On matters investment, it's not very easy to get investors. We just had the Africa Forward Summit 2 months ago, which profiled our country as a key investment destination. So if we get somebody who is now unwinding those efforts, that is somebody we should ignore. In fact, he should not be anywhere near voters, because he is only minding his own personal interests. And therefore, we want to condemn his remarks in the strongest terms possible. This region has strategic investment enablers. We have Dongokundu Special Economic Zone just here, where His Excellency the President has ensured a contract between Dongokundu and Afrexim running into 30 billion of investments. And therefore, if somebody is now announcing that he wants to direct investments elsewhere, that is not a leader fit for Kenya. So we want Kenyans to know that Rigathi Gachagua does not mean well for this country. He should be ignored. He should be condemned in the strongest terms possible.
Arena ikura sorongo rwa pwani mase ya mundi gatoka na paka ase nyumba y'oburai bwense asomrai bwense Dr. William Samuel Ruto mokonye bw'omurai bwense Professor Kithure Kindiki bariganirie egekare mambia bono ekikekwanira hamangana aringete yokong'anya ense ya Kenya erigo chikoba ense ntangani kiuchumi mambia bono asibagandire tokwanira mangana aringete ukwagacha ense na mono ase amara batkeni guchakira ensemo yebesa nabo igokogendereria ense ase obwagare mambia mase yamo wekase nyumba y'oburai bwense asomuchyoyega o Nairobi asomurai bwense agendera tukurwa enkwana yae asege karekyo kyogosukia ense ya Kenya goika ase ense ntangani kiuchumi.
In scholarship and strategic thinking on Kenya's future beyond Vision 2030. Today, we receive the outcome of that important assignment. On behalf of the government and the people of Kenya, and on my own behalf, I sincerely thank Professor Hino, who is not here with us. He was meant to be here, but due to flight complications, he was not able to come. But I'm told he will be joining us in due course. Thank Professor Anyang' Nyong'o, Professor Michael Chege, Professor Karuti Kanyinga, Professor Peter Wanyande, and every contributor for this remarkable act of scholarship and patriotism. Asanteni sana. It is true that when I discuss this matter with colleagues and the senior leaders in our country, we said let's start somewhere. And I did ask Professor Hino, Professor Michael, and Professor Peter Anyang' Nyong'o here to give us some ideas. And they developed a team with which they worked with, and we are very happy that we now have a report. This proposal is a thoughtful and valuable contribution to an important national conversation. Its value lies not in providing every answer, not even in the composition of the team, but in asking important questions, challenging our assumptions, broadening our thinking, and enriching our reflection on the choices that will shape Kenya's future. All these efforts are driven by one larger reality. For nearly 2 decades, Vision 2030 has provided our nation with a shared sense of direction. It has guided reforms, inspired investment, and shaped Kenya's development journey. But every nation and every national vision eventually reaches its sunset. As Vision 2030 approaches its conclusion, the responsibility now falls upon our generation to imagine what comes next. I have just had an opportunity to glance through this report. While I have much more to study and reflect upon, I am encouraged that many of the issues it raises speak to the strategic direction we have already begun pursuing. Far from beginning from scratch, the report builds upon foundations already being laid while offering thoughtful perspectives that can enrich Kenya's long-term transformation. These are ideas that deserve careful study, thoughtful reflection, and broad national engagement. Ladies and gentlemen, development cannot be a project of one administration, nor should every election require us to abandon one national vision and begin another. Professor has told us nations don't develop by accident. It has to be intentional, deliberate, planned. Nations that achieve lasting prosperity succeed because they sustain a common purpose across decades, even as administrations change. Kenya must cultivate that same discipline. We must think beyond electoral cycles, sustain what works, improve what can be made better, and build a national consensus around our long-term aspirations. I have said that we have done so much to get our country's economy on the rails. And 3 years ago is so fresh in my mind when we sat in a room called Room 6 here with colleagues and friends, including David and my Council of Advisors. And that the situation then was very different from the situation today. In that room, 3.5 years ago, we were grappling with a $2 billion debt that was threatening to torpedo our country. Today here, we're discussing the National Infrastructure Fund, which has $2.7 billion cash, not debt. That, in my opinion, is significant. Also, when I had a conversation with my predecessor, and he talked to me about continuity. I remember when we prepared the Kenya Kwanza manifesto, and I am very proud about the manifesto that we wrote. Sometimes I ask myself how we managed to write such a manifesto. And I want to thank my predecessor, President Uhuru Kenyatta. He gave me leave of absence for like 2 years. And I used that time to write this manifesto. With David and colleagues, we sat in my office in Karen and we went through. And most of what is in that manifesto has a huge element of continuity, whether it is on education, on health, on housing, on agriculture. It has a big reflection on what we had tried to do in Jubilee under President Uhuru. We remember very well that the foundation was laid on our education. First President of Kenya laid the foundation on matters education. The second president expanded education, created more institutions, additional universities. President Mwai Kibaki came with universal primary education. President Kenyatta told us effectively that we must have 100% transition. And it has been my responsibility to make sure that when we have 100% transition, we have the classrooms. That's why we built 23,000 classrooms to eliminate the gaps that were there. We must have enough teachers. That's why we've hired 100,000 teachers. And I want to say we have worked on the university funding model now, or higher education funding model for that matter. And because we have members of parliament here, including the chair of education, Mr. Meli here, that now we have in parliament the final version of how we are going to make higher education universal. Finally, it will not matter the background of any child in Kenya. It will matter how good they are only. And going into the future, I know we have been trying to grapple with how do we fund our higher education in colleges, in our Kenya medical training centers, and in our universities. We tried the differentiated model. I think the vice chancellors here know it didn't work because it made most of our universities almost close down. Because while we promised 80% funding, we went down to 40%, and most universities suffered. We have worked on what we thought was equity, where we said parents will contribute a small portion, we will give a portion of loan, we will give a portion of scholarship. That creates equity, but it's not good enough. Now we are moving to universal under the amendments we have taken to Parliament. So going forward, any university, any student, so long as they have passed their exam and they have been placed in a college or a university, each one of them will get full funding for their higher education. It will be the choice of parents if they want to pay. But if parents don't want to pay, we now have a model that will pay for every child. And we are doing it because we want to be deliberate. Countries that are ahead of us, that we were together, had high quality education. Education was a central pillar. My team tells me that education makes us equal and has no equal. Do you remember that phrase somewhere? That is where we are taking this. And I want to implore on Parliament to expedite the amendments to the Higher Education Laws Board so that beginning September, we can make sure that any child, because we have incidences, for example, where a child from an underprivileged family who qualifies to do medicine fails to do medicine because their parents cannot afford to pay the household contribution and have to change to go and do a different course. We want to stop that. We want to make sure that if a child qualifies to do engineering or medicine, funding does not deter them from achieving their goal. That the government of Kenya must be able to support every child. And on and on. As government, we shall now study this proposal carefully. We shall engage with its recommendations, consult widely, reflect on the ideas this proposal advances. And once that process has been concluded, I will communicate the way forward as we shape Kenya's next long-term national vision. And as we undertake that process, I also invite all the stakeholders represented here today to study this proposal carefully and engage constructively with the ideas it advances. I want to encourage you to carry this conversation into our universities, research institutions, businesses in our counties, chair of Council of Governors, professional associations, places of worship, and in our communities and villages. The next chapter of Kenya's development cannot be written by government. It must be shaped by the collective wisdom, experience, and participation of the Kenyan people. Today's ceremony, therefore, does not mark the end, but the beginning of a process. Let us approach this task with confidence, humility, and a shared purpose, determined to leave to the future generations not merely a stable economy, but a stronger nation. I have listened to the good professors who spoke here, and as I continue to listen to them and their perspectives and where we've come from and how many have borrowed ideas from us, used those ideas to do better than us, it calls upon us as a people now to imagine the future we are all looking towards and to do the things that will never again make us drop the ball. And I must speak specifically to the people sitting here and those outside here who are leaders. You know, the responsibility, friends. I know we have tried to give many explanations on why we haven't moved as we should or as we expected. The biggest challenge in my reflection is that leadership must play a very central role. Political leaders, business leaders, civil society leaders, professional leaders, all leaders, religious leaders, we must all bring our leadership to bear for us to move this country to the next level. And we must own up that it is us. And that is why I keep saying I will lead from the front as much as is practically possible for me. I will not try to hide behind, you know, maybe so-and-so, maybe this was not. Because what we have achieved today in the last 3 years has not been easy. I had many opportunities to back down and to say, okay, it's become difficult. The courts have decided. The people have said something different. Some groups have pushed back. But you see, together, we have moved. And I want to appreciate that Parliament has made a huge contribution. The courts have assisted us to create a better future. I remember on housing, for example, the court suggested to us that please go and do a proper law. And we went and did a proper law. So they have made a contribution towards where we are going. The people gave their views, and everybody has come together. And that is why we are implementing that process. So it takes leadership from across sectors for us to be able to move forward. You have said, Professor Kanyinga, that, we were better than China in 1981, 82, 83. I mean, that is so recent. Every one of us here was born by then, right? Just imagine that. That China was just a, country poorer than us. How many years ago? 30 years ago. Look at where they are. So when we say that this great country of ours can become a first world country in our generation, it is doable. Play your part, as Anyang Nyong'o told us. It is doable, play your part. Everybody must play their part. And we must believe in ourselves. We must believe. The challenge, that I come across with many people in leadership positions is that they have given up. They are just there, telling us how impossible things are, how others have tried and failed, how this has been tried and failed. So what the hell are you doing if you have no energy to move things to the next level? Please exit. Get out of the way. You're causing a jam. Honestly, if you have no energy to move anything anywhere, you're just a stumbling block. You are, So really, we must believe in ourselves, and we must believe in a greater Kenya than the one we have today. I am so persuaded about a first world country that is Kenya, that we must do everything and anything to get ourselves going. When Professor Kanyinga said how Kenya was better than many countries, we were better than this country, we were better than this country. I saw a report the other day, about, I think, a week ago, and I asked my gentleman there to Google it for me. Can you bring it? I want to read that thing. Yeah, this was just a report, I think, a few days ago. And the report says, just hold on, yeah, it says here, Kenya's stock market ranked among the world's best performing markets. This is 4 or 5 days ago. And this is the story. The Nairobi Securities Exchange has indeed been ranked as the 4th best performing stock market globally in the first half of 2026, delivering an impressive all-share index return of plus 26%. The bourse outperformed major international markets like the US Nasdaq, the UK FTSE 100, China's Shanghai Composite. Did you get that? Yeah? This is not my report. You can go and Google it. Right? We outperformed the US Nasdaq, the UK's FTSE, the China's. This is not many years ago, Professor Kanyinga. This is last week. So we were doing well then. We have begun to do well again. Maybe I should read a bit of it. Just the primary catalyst fueling this historic rally include banking sector surge, strong corporate earnings, and renewed investor confidence that have given massive growth, with a banking index delivering exceptional returns. Top performing stocks, companies like Car and General, Kenya Airways, I&M Bank, posted staggering gains for investors, shifting to equity. Lower yields on government bonds, you know what that means, have sparked a localized shift towards equities, pushing the Nairobi Securities Exchange market capitalization to historic high of over 3.8 trillion. That is Kenya. So if any one of you had any doubt in the possibilities that this country can make, please start believing in your country. Start believing in your country. And as we engage in this process, because it's going to be a robust process, it's not going to end in weeks or months, maybe it'll take us a year or so, we must have a robust conversation as a country on what the future of Kenya is. This is not about the next election. This is about the future of Kenya. Yeah, the future of Kenya. The next election will come and go, but we must focus, because whoever wins or loses the next election will be here. Nobody's going to leave the country. So we're going to be here, and the future of Kenya will matter to everybody, those who win and those who lose. Yeah? And so it is very important that we think about the future of our country. And finally, as we focus about that future, I have said we must believe in ourselves, we must believe in our country, and we must be patriotic. And as been said here, integrity must be the benchmark of our engagements. We must be honest, brutally honest with ourselves. I will give you an example. We are a country that believes we are a robustly democratic country. When I went to the G7, among the issues that was in conversation was artificial intelligence and how it's going to power the future, and how social media is going to, it continues to affect society positively and negatively. And Kenya, for your information, is number one in the whole world in the use of social media. Number? It is said that every Kenyan, or on average, Kenyans spend 4 hours and a few minutes every day you know, and all the stuff in there, you know what is in that social media story, you know. But even with all that, we are still surging forward. We're still moving forward. And it is very important, therefore, for us to think about, I have said, the education of our country, the security of our country. It is very important. You've had reflections by some people here who have told us about Khartoum. Khartoum was a beautiful city 3 years ago. Today it is rubble. And the world is moving on. The rest of the world is moving on. They have destroyed their country, but the rest of the world is moving on. People are trying to help. We're trying to do whatever we can do. But, so, we must secure our country. I have been following the debate. You know, we had the demonstrations, democratic, constitutional, legal. But we also have criminals and thugs and characters who destroy people's property, steal from people, burn down buildings. And you know, we are unable to make a decision. You know, you find people who've come to town, they've destroyed, burned down shops, destroyed people's property. And, you know, the conversation is, please, you know, these are our children. You know, these are our children, so we must listen to them, which is okay. You know, yes, must listen to them. We continue. Some people arrested, you know, with criminality, taken to court. They're given a bond of 200 shillings. They live there, you know, because they're our children. And then they go on. They now go to political rallies. And then we have goons. And then I don't know whether we want to say again, these are our children. The goons. So, you know, we really need to have a candid conversation about criminality, the rule of law, security of our nation. It cannot be the case. There cannot be any defense for criminality. There cannot be any defense for breaking the law. I am very happy that the last time there was an attempt for criminality in town and we stopped it, you know, many Kenyans agreed that no, it's now time for us to say no to people who want to ban our property. And that is going to be the future. I am very, it's now clear that everybody, every sector of our society, the business leaders, religious leaders, political leaders, have all agreed that having lawlessness, goons and all these other characters, criminals, should be stopped. Now that we have a consensus, our security agencies must do their job. Within the law, they must do their job and they must stop criminality. You know, that is how we are going to secure Kenya's future. Even as we discuss this future of our nation in the context of what we are saying. So we will go through this report, and in a short while, I will then propose a way forward on how this report can now, you know, ignite a national conversation for all of us. You know, no political parties, no religious,
Eje Y'Ensoko TV, uboroso bw'umugusi. Je, una ndoto kufanya kazi ughaibuni? Mwakala wa ALM tutakuwezesha kutimiza ndoto yako. Tunatoa ajira katika nyanja mbalimbali kwenye mataifa ya Qatar, Milki za Kiarabu, Saudia, Bahrain, bara Europa, miongoni mwa mengine.
We are legally registered by the National Employment Authorities, and we are licensed to do manpower recruitment for different countries. Currently, we are reaching companies in UAE, in Qatar, Russia, and we are hoping to enlarge our boundaries.
Kwa maelezo zaidi, wasiliana nasi kwa nambari 0721151500 au 07296905 au unaweza kutembelea katika ofisi zetu zilizopo jijini Nairobi katika jumba la Delta House, orofa ya pili, chumba nambari 204 katika barabara ya University Way.
Tupigie simu utimize ndoto yako ya ng'ambo. Karibuni sana.
Ine nuganete betri uratumia segari yao ebetri ugucakirimo ugakweba ebetri ulegene chinga kichonsi ebenga kieriberera gusenga kiyobokendu tawe chanika Autobat Kenya Limited no tuligigiga asingichao nigo tokorosia na koni chibetri uratumia chinga kichonsi chibetri uratumie asegari enke ebasi no nyaneri kurukuru.
Tutakupitia pale kwa gari yako, tutahakikisha tumeweka na tumekupimia charging system ya gari na pia tumekupimia battery na kila kitu itakuwa iko sawa.
Alright. Sasa na ikileta shida kabla hii warranty ishe itakuwa namna gani?
Ikikusumbua kabla ya warranty utakuja, alafu tukishaiangalia tutakupatia battery ya kushikilia tukiendelea kuangalia yako.
Talia yoka na battery yechinguru.
Battery ya Autobat ni battery ambayo ni spill proof, kumaanisha hiyo battery haimwagi acid ile ambayo iko ndani. Hiyo battery imetengenezwa na calcium. Kama vile tunajua calcium hainanga water loss, kumaanisha sasa hiyo battery hakuna wakati ambayo inakauka hiyo acid.
Asamange twakirisimi namba 0739697855.
Kwa wale watu wakuja mstatiwa, wachana na battery kama hizi. Tumia Autobat. Battery ni Autobat.
Mugusi omwancho murigiriri nigaruete asense mo ya Busongo orogongo rwa Afrika agatara agasoa asense ya Kenya agasoa asense county bere chiagusi kisi Nyamira na nene monese bitunu biri twanchete kurendo mugusi tachiete gotegera rororo obero gotara asense nkima na rero tugotore asense mo ya pipeline omwancho murigiriri aso mugusi anyare ko bagasoa na gochaka kwerigeria asense ya bene kurwaiga pipeline omwochi o Nairobi ntobeto koretra emegano ende yonsi iri okorekana etana ino mugusi na nene monense yonsi ya Kenya. Eye Y'Ensoko TV eri etaliane ni Innocent Onyango.
Obulimira bwisiro yobunda bwense kolende tali nchira ndio sura krobulimi obiyoke enyoreri bagaria bene kwaegwa megerio chisemi nobosemia iguri obulimi bwekerero nechikolinga
asobolemi bochete skuru nobotigi bokumerwa mate
tebone ng'ombe bune yengiya
Gale konyana eyisimegete ndera ngetia maraba ekonete konya kukina yoka maraba konya kuyona nganya kwama buya
beka chibuti imo kyobo kombe to semogondo bweli nebisumwime na pathway machine
Kristo Jumaine chinsa ni bere chamorogoba wika chinsa isato asomoro bere oberemi nobotugi ekeroture semia mange kura saberemi chini gongoro kwa petrol machine
asomoro bere boberemi nobotugi ime Y'Ensoko TV oboroso bw'omugusi mirna nabali bechinguru erikwe manyabo na wataka kurutana nye chinse Frida Kerubo Innocent Onyango Clinton Ondigi, Diana Ndemu, Ishmael Mogere, Linet Nyambane, Daniel Omwaga, eke na kigekos kiamesa yamangana maya. Eye n'Ensoko TV, oboroso bw'umugusi.
Karibu nando mwanchumu origere chideka nemerongebere na ibere gore chinse isano chia bono mambia Ensoko TV boroso bw'umugusi asense moyende ya kabiri maga yokonyora aliagendere tokoreka ne mambia ya boro buna tokurane kurwase nyumba enene yoburai bwense asibagendere tukukwanira usase gekaro ikyo kia ariganirwa no murai bwense Dr. William Samuel Rutombo Konyi umukonyi Professor Kidhure Kindiki asukukwanira igoro yenchira yogusikia ense ya Kenya kurwase ense namba isato asense meria ya kiuchumi na boigo kwira na paka ense nambe yemo kiuchumi ekine kigekaro kiaringe mambia bona boigo kigendrete gitaraika omwerio kira tokoswa senkwanete mambia bona sikuchiko chakira igabwo ime studio ni no mugeni oyo nkwari baga eria gukwanie mambia eyega na boiga ragosogeria kumenyenanga yako rukurabwo ntosoe asenkwane ito emambia ya bono kwani yango morigereria mambia yega
Minto, Samaria Tango Pedin, no Manyavia Saraga, Nairobi, that's what thing, Amanya, a thing I'm in our country, Biamari.
Karibu sana emambia bono kerokiria kwaraba kwanire niko tuko chake kwani itase obwango mono ege karonkere kendre itase nyumba yobura ibwense na kero koligiria somo nwerwege songo niko bagatabana journey to first world economy igonegi karakyo kwanira na ki ense yega ya Kenya eranyare kunganya guse esabari guchiase ense ntangani kiuchumi wenyore niko tole namba isato na korenga nomura ibwense nigo tore ase sabari yokwera na paka ense na mbentangani ya sensemo ya kiuchumi nebikarebika. This is not the first time tali entune ntangani ntu obwate mangane kiganchekerikia infrastructure fund wekeraboni ga nigo gya chage tibya wekeraboni ya bado na ande ntu anyigo keigwa na bono ekenege karokene na ande kigukwanira mangana bwate kaine esabaria yokunganyinse ya Kenya guchech koba ense ntangani kiuchumi na kiura kwa negro yebikarebika byabere bikokorekana kiujumla wenyore sabali neri ya Singapore no yaro no egosweraga
nda tebanga Kenya ko ire ketambo kiroko tebanga ngoswere ever first world country na Singapore ikene entekia sana esengenjo kan buna society ere lazima kere society evenga ngotakere kuimukeri igoro inde ever first world country bono mna indutore in Africa almost tore third world countries ambia ko dream go tuaranga to move to the first world country lakini ende chinza jindo koranga Kenya one tuavanga tuagenda bwango mano lakini ende mbia ko tuare chinga kijumna 21st century esengenjo tubwate all the sources turatake ko move to the first world country
lakini karagota ruasa semeri kwa melia serikali unabona igani kutubwata chinsemo chinge sana tubwata seme kuragwa na Rigathi Gachagua area United Alternative Government tubwata linda mwananchi na wewe kogenda kira chinsemo chiregani chinge sana chikwamerelia oburai bwabo no sobrai bweri tukekero kuigwa chiseme chiga chonsi ebintu mbirega bakomoche serikali wechakira chisemi ogende obochenu bwaga chibwe chipara ogende oligerio bakari bwe serikali botumeke bwe chibesa ebintu biga byansi pakobukomwe bwensi no bogo chiraime enchira serikali gutumika chibesa chiae no nyana se budget ya rosi waboni ebintu biga byansi pekero kubirigeria korengana na seme kwa serikali barabuni go bari maminchana ntoko nyara wika first world country wosisabari gateko nyara wikirana onye baro bintu mbire tuzarikirania sinseme chiga chonsi pigo chakira chisemi paka okolere amangana abwatikane no botumeki ubwechibesa
bono abantu bare in opposition ndatewe koma serikali nengendikia lakini ende era abengo morai wense taraba bekamo elinda baro kinga ndwane tukaenda guchie direction ye bono barawe banga batikarete maeka bono mbuya bakorera na baravunga kuringana ne muna Kenya ebanga nga batikarete isiku bono erinde babekume amorai wense nawe tabakwanere abashwenga ebintu muno bokurumi health n'ebintu binde obishugurike kagotiga ebintu ebyate go bishugurika abandi nabo bagofiringa batigaire isiku yegwene na Kenya bunere abana siasa bitu nabaya bari lakini chinza chinde bara abandi baga bara leta ideas babugate erinde toro gusentu ndosike moto
idea chigatuko kwanira ime ya serikali gusisiko ya serikali asenge nchiboni yake rokoligereria elaini nere ya choliruga igo mustarali no choliruga igana serikali ino kabe nsemo yino nsemo yo position kwa mere serikali kaba nsemo yino nakira nyara koleta abantu abagose idea cyabo ryo kinyare kikubwatiraniwa because abayiga batebire na into ndotegetigwe yazo shit na serikali pi ndutiye tutigare ase mpaka liriba bwato mu rubiri omuya bona opposition gose bakwatekerengerigete na igentenkiganirwa kwarekana bado obwigimererwa limbororo naki ebiganiga turabikirania ase engakieria turachigosoa ase oburaye mbategete ko association na serikali pi
tiga leaders beito mamenye ngamba bwati obligation yoko tokorega simna into monya inchi temine tinge karore serikali mene karoteria serikali me ebinto mbire serikali raete bia tiga babikorregas babianja erinde tonyora maendeleo ayo abare side eriende na barabuti criticize serikali asengenje asopia gari aseta kolektivia na sobukuru mangana health education nebinto binde birabe changamoto ase serikali biyo koso serikali lakini rende chinsa chinde abarai baito baba bantu bakotokorregasi baira na bainyoranga babande kotokorregasi tarikera chinsa no complain abako biko mo starting as tayo babande kotambuka tiga bainyorenga Kenya ne ya matubwate na barawe bachorire asenjere ya mu senjere yende kotokorregasi bona nanga kubaranga ba ngwanja baba batoherero erinde ba address ibintu asobuya taringa matorigere Kenya matusi nara mange mangana siasa une kere birengo kero monda igwete nga akera kwa na igambia lakini baturie bakorora banenje gasi
nenga kitwikire nenga kia elia kerwa kwanire ngane iyo yakabirira giti akaenderete kwene kiwemense nenga kielia ntubwato busagani bagenderete okorekana nabo ntubigo ntubwata mwana ichibura buru nabo igo abantu kunya kuminyokana bari kuri asema ya mugutia sense moyende nabasaina obakwenyora gatigana mbarabwo bakari gutumikwa sebinte biga byonse ipi igorenga nengima iyo busagani gose gunism iyo agenderete kwene kiwa nabo ige bintu binga bune bigera toko birigereria nabo mwako gocha ense ya Kenya yanyorire libaga lyogocha go host kerot kerito kora tambuka sense mubone liechigo sorry ntubwata libaga lyogocha ko hosta togotabana AFCON omwako gocha whereby ense ya Uganda, Tanzania na Kenya kubwaterana ntusto twarege ntukenga bune keiga asense moyende nenga kielia campaign egocha kubwata ense senginjira rena tukubwata gochori obonene nebinti biga byonsi nebyengencho the same way ense moyechigo sorry yengencho siasa nero gosobo chole no bwengencho mono lakini ne libyonsi bibya nyorire birenga kieyemo lakini tutara ikororo egento ngeregia so kirima pema gikurukwa na gunism obosagani ne chibura burugocha gocha tutaracha guika engaki eyo nebinte byonsi bigo korekana ngaito gocha kwenyora bunense because bone ngento buna AFCON na kinene investors baranyare gosoa onye baroche bintu binga bune biga bigendera chakwenekiwa
ndatebenga AFCON nende kia wira se Kenya misingi ntwanya coast as East Africa na nego chere koleta bakenia bange batarense ite ya Kenya ba boost tourism ne bintu binde macheso bitu ngoyo no macheso togo chesa bi no nye last time twabanga ntigeti lakini this time mbwata matumaini nganto karebi ono go chance ya gunism enda machie Ministry of Interior style te turabe nga tuwate gunism nande tuwate bintu bigo chomna amana yenkoyo na development ni tuwate ya Singapore. Gunism ngochere kutu affect babe sana tutanyirigerere TV nande youths na wao chabaumia esenjo maybe batawati chigasi kana gari banyaranga bangaini enchuko tandocha bacho kare bintu nibi patrende gunism terigento kia etwango sabanga bantu bari in security sector bari gente kaso bakerigeria sobo agare nge chakaba gento gakoento esenjo next year general election nero naende abantu mbatwaranga baboenga no gocha kosoka kwa kachukure esenjo ya gunism kero montaye we chance aso atahare Kenya muna tore free 2027 ne kalenda yeto ya demokrasia twakachukura God willing matinyi na 2027 ono ndo twara bwa gunism
na ekera tukwanegero ya magana ya gunism kwaroche usentwaroche enchira abochori wabeto bakorana abochori bakasensemo ya olikalau na terikia betike kwene kiweke kima ekweterese kema ya DCP bakayemukyo bobui asensemo ya serikali weterekia makia UDA bakaba namba ibere ekera tukoliye binte biga byonsi pi asemo ya serikali yeke kamono ase ensemo ye bunge ya olikalau kurwa sokwena na imetungelie chigasi nkwarora chimatres chikoenanwa nkwarora bakamato naro gakoenanwa amangana yebese naro nagari gatigabwo ebintu biga byonsi pi nigo byare gokorekana bune nchireyamo yokwega na kweberera mwana nchina enera serikali erituko ikiniki yachore ko bakorera bas igonere bya motoe ekiruge keiga editonyoro bubui editugendera komento batayana no komenta abana jeshi ase ekambi ya serikali kiri kikagenda ase ensemo yende engao gashawangwaro chena atebetana ni gari no mugoko monene pake kabitereria agenda achigote bimurio ena abaminto mugoko mbwate ngware gochwa no menta nyone no mwana onde kolenda gatena dori kasio gateba kurumwene na yaya barate konyarekana tuontu tubona twagotire twarakorarire ne sabali eyo igoro yabochoro bakesemo ya olikalau kibako twaro kibosi bochoro bana mu mwako gocha
olikalau congratulations asomo bwirendo bwete nango tayanga kiama kia DCP ngia kore gazi ko iro bujumbo against ko muntu we serikali rende kichama cha UDA nango tayanga mbakore gazi nene lakini rende serikali ngotakere rende yabwa rende yanyora abajumba bangi lakini wana kiama kia DCP rende ngia baguritoyo asigasi bakorene nengwaro na baba chikambio batari kuruo na mangana yo koyana na rende ko baega nerenga abarai baito chinsa chinde terre kanange ba kuire bindo binda asande mba kuira bindo
ngwaro chinsemo chinde unabona ku western ngwaro chibakulalamikana yani binte biko irumo ino lakini ntumo ina yatoka turasoda no mugati asenge nchibaro chikiriya kwa kale tensemo ya malava
chinsa jine na beko rekanaigo because obaene mbaire binte binge olikalau yora tebenga kububa mbaire tikura era bengane negente ke byasi baro yani ni kichapo lakini ende tukubasabira maya ne yo bweterende enga kienga bwate toro sena korra bante gasi
wetera sekema kia DCP wetera sekeruge kiga aste konyora obubwe umwaka 2027 kumanyete na neren kunya kulia ndigo na bargaining power bone gonyolire kirugo kilia kemukyo bobunge unyore na bwate birugo byo MCA muinoga gocha bargaining power yarigete gashawa wikeraboni yanga yekire bono na mono kuroro gongorwa Mount Kenya guchia asense yonse kero kiriba kwendera tokoro sense mekwabire serikali
ono ekeroge kio karao ekiama beka sagia ndatebenga aso wete machingu no murai wense nere no mate gashagwa akwebeka nere bagushindana komo ekeroge kia mokonyi komoro kinga namubwe base namure bachumba bake neke na gegote yo murai wense nga nera arende man kako rari kirasime ori na baramura abachumba batari bake lakini enda se bargaining power yabekire omuchumbe Gachagua former deputy president asagia andatebenga bona nabakoraria abantu basobonga ntutwara obubu asichikora chiraje
ase nkwana yaye kurwa igoro paka bono mambia abara iborogongo rwa pwani nigo besokire bakugikire chinkwana chergadi Gachagua asikire bagotebana Gachagua nabwatugete amangana na ekerari ngase ogosasima nabwatugete amangana aliana nerebya bali bakorwa n'abatali gose tourist kurisiko yense ya Kenya gwikira boni bararaira ngora gose bararate n'ikisabari cyabwocha ime yense ase kelia na ense ya Kenya teri conducive basenga ndetu ateberegero yo chigonzimu obosagani oburi chibura burgocha gocha na igoteri bya ase barabwocha ime yense environment telingiya no bomenyo bwabo na igobona bararaira ngora tumanyete na obuya bwa tourism gocha ime yense na kumanyite ngane yonsi egokwanwa na murayo nde wense na bana no mwemsi yokwana amangana yakabe kwimetandao ka kaminyoka nonye no ulio kara Australia nonye no nde wensi yokara nyona ni Israel gocha marango cyane nkorandara so bwango ngoswara si embassy onyore nto kerenze ne bwate embassy konyerense ya Israel ebe na Australia ebe US kerenze ne bwate embassy ya ime yense mangana yango cyara tumwaga nda so bwango mano abayikira abamenyi bekinse chiga igoro yengane yegengima korengana na bali bapwani bagotebana ngani itelingiya na igo bono goika korengana bara goika bachikoluzimo no especially asense meria yogo sangereria kwenyorere bitoki nabo igo kogendereria orongo rwa pwani asingencho abuno bategemete the same way abantu ba Mount Kenya bategemete amangana bwatikene ne chae ekawa gocha gusio bari migocha na barabwo asamane tourism abuno uchumi yabo yonsi pia lakini Gachagua atebire na asebono kararaira magoro make timoracha
maita abamenyi ba pwani na Mombasa at large bategemete tourism ono anything go interfere na economic activity ya yense gete ondete yoranya njere lakini go charende amangana Gachagua kwane teneringa erabe maega ya mangana neria tete serikali ya address ya mangana ya gunism kote yabageni mbacha na bera hati economy lakini nende on the other hand no kote international community nga ntuka bwate mangana mna ya gunism ayu maybe abwenete ense ito tanga ya address kero kende ara benga ngo address wale lakini ako address kwase enjera yobongora ono neringa ate ko bayiri ndo banya address amangana mnayu so that to receive tourism tourism nero backbone ya economy ya Kenya for to check farming tourism na manganande lakini wano gunism ngujere ko affect tourism abataro chinga ngujere ko affect tiaba manyenga gunism ngeri gento kia abageni beitu para mochuna nabanta bakayimugetie chisira awao tego chakawe ndego
asense moyende ekero tukulira mangana yega akiuchumi gochigo chekero kulire manifesto ya Dr. William Samuel Ruto of course ngoliye tolengana kwanira ige mambya ya bono asiki karukiari ngaiga emambya ya bono so far so good ekero tukulira orogongo rwa pwani because we karaboni gerwa soira asense meri ugo sire serikali mono kolengana barabu nchere kiyoro chibakonyekire na serikali ya bono because ngwaro chabandi bagwesoke bagotana ntoro chikenda sengencho abandi bare bachakira kunganywa kurwase chinde mbere cyabo na gutagolerwa eri kwene kina nyanobwa gachwe chinyomba chicheri gulire inse abuno ingane ine arego chiraime eli chichikobe kwaro lakini bare bataraisane lakini abandi bare bali yase moye ndwate bana intuna no kwangurwa pwani toisanikire kerekeri boyo gotambo ko chirani county ya Nyamira
oro kwangurwa pwani babere favored babwate SCSM bare jo kitengo kya maini babwate APS fikiri babwate baraibanda ase serikali yo murayiri ya Ruto ono abako complain oro kongondoro batakabwati bantu lakini barabere no ko etetea ase nsemo yo gotanga mbaranya development Bagwate chi project chigendret na area alarm lapset. Chi project njira chini. Amangana mining no are sema ya Kilifi nini upgrading ya chipara baramba nyora. Orogongoro ndero rwa support tio mara William Ruto ndoro rogo fili mbara nyora kendi. Lakini at least baraba nyora ibintu bikorrekana. Na ndemba gwata barayi ya serikali.
Nyamira ngikwa nyorira. Aya no mumenyo gwe county ya Nyamira.
Nyamira. Nyamira ntora faidika muno. Obogambi Rai William Ruto mboratu ikirabuya.
Ngayo muchandole because akarota yego gimineti na senale Murai Y'Ensoko leti sabari gocha orogongo rwa gusi uchire Nyamira uchire Kisii County, so it means ina sabari tari gocha ocha posa ama yanaro ragocha naro karase ke kabu.
Most of the time ekarago ngoteba bari uchire namaya ngotanga sabari grade newe kangotanga sari lakini mono gokwende project ye ground ntorara inte but promise tingo tabari university. So far tindanya manyan ngaya chete to anda konyare strip timai tinga ya chete to anda konyara a lot of projects to anda ko weekend factory ya matoke visibility study nja kwetu ntora manyanga yikirete ngaye kwamirete maybe ranyono mugabano rata tebinga ngaye gikirete gose mesa yayere gose
response yabarai nerelie because buno mwana inchi gose bura bana chingo cha bari barara bishali na kibara toto baswaso bisi gose no mu bunge yo mugabana barabori na kibona ganto kalia ngaibona gaikere goche goche response yabarai kwanza nerelie because mbabwata information
abarai baito chisa chine nabaya bari ne chisa chine gocha bari ba let down ekero Murai Y'Ensoko atebire ngoena nali gintu giti ine responsibility yo Murai gufuatilia okera njawano mamenyi Nyamira tinguru nsari ngendo bisi yo Murai njigufuatilia bono para una wente baje na machifu badeyeke kekirega koseke baenga kigete banyorore kyabe bono ntura manyanga barabumba bwato bumanyi kose mbarabu bwato bumanyi nintu batarate chinsa chinde ekabana yete ya Nyamira newente tatebi bya university ya tete ngwaga chwere ngai yachete egokera Kisii ne wate university indi tweka twatera tware university batete ngori bari oburemo bono ntura manyanga site no buremo boborete gose university ego chikobe kwanga gose ngobe kwere Nyamira.
Ekarogori county ya Nyamira gwikira boni bura tugukwana iga abantu batenenira abange sana especially onganchire toswasekero kiri kwaze kyobo governor abange sana tushakiro mu governor obisi na abande bari goche list baso kiri abange mono so far so good chise monchire chindakero ko kenda ukuyubaka ko tebina aike yo mu governor na roro obisi na inda abande mbali bali babwateganga yo kurije kiro gekiga lakini bado ntoro chimonto uranyare gokonye county yiga ya Nyamira ngai moleno
abantu baso kinyamira bogabana abange nendekia iye mineti nganto bata murabasomete daende goro kinga elevo yeito nigore kero
lakini bali bago differentiate na akosoma no kuya lakini temineti na akosoma okwo boko translate
but one
which koleta maunchereli
but one a general feeling neringa kero monto na tete come make change it means oyoro bisi tariko karabuya mono kera abantu bago chanaenda abange oyoro bisi na wenze ko kuyake keranya ari gereringa ngai yakare ko gosera nabamra bago soka abange itwango basabanga zingine abantu abange nabaya lakini ebango bekanamo bana no mwerekeo to nyore kinyoro mu abantu batatu bane mu kuburi bogabana zingine mu guchanganyisha abantu baino banka ngo bagwakera ngo bagutika bono nyumura bamura babiri batatu constituency ya mono muntu murangerani muigwanane matomontoyo
na akero kere turo chigo kolera tokwenda subwanga tera bakekero kelikyo borai bwensi bari neganga yoko ligekero gekeiga na mwana kurwase orongo rwagusi of course maraganaro matianginaro ororo lakini ngane rega iga maboli ara mange gwetania machivu nkelina abara imbara iga bago support Daktari Fred Matiang'i ekero keri yoko ligereria bona babunge mubunge wense muye bunge ya kitutu chache South okurukuna nera Anthony Kibagendi Cliff Gisairo kerogocha mo senator we county ya Kisii Onyonkano wale maiga amuna abandi bonsi pia kero keri yoko baliereria nigo bare nsemeria Matiang'i lakini at the same time kwa re conversation egendrete nigo bare na nsemo area ya Linda Mwananchi euro chena weekend yiga babwate wetera somora yuli na baro bago siroko kwedu ni Sifuna mo senator we county ya Nairobi babwana abwate coming kwa yero lilo munagendrete koralirwa sana na bwiga marga nagendrete ase county ya Bungoma libolire gandirina na kibago sire chinsemo ibere nkibatari koralirwa musimamona niko bari timu Matiang'i gose niko bari asensemo ya Linda Mwananchi abwasa bandi barochena no gentonkere getagendrete gatiaiga kerekia gose gentonkere iga buno mo Kenya na bwigo mwakie kura abisira singe chumwa ki kura tagani eri gutantanigwa nigategete konyora na kyo bwene na ki asitoleniga na lyo agochaka komek usago chaka kokali na chia mapema manyana nga yago chekobeke kura yayo chi
bono abaminto maeta baraiya baitu monyore nga bachore tune chichama ni chama abange baba bachore tuno DM na Sifuna no arengo DM paka juice
abo bado bakwebera mbako DM bado mbara resign because nuko resign iga basi immediately rokwira netebe
bano no bale n'ababunge bo DM paka ba support yo DM Matiang'i tawa de chama ngaki tari babunge bae lakini eganga yo kubori ko ekoroge kenene giense na kikiama bikira sai ba support n'abantu toguroro gongoromo n'abantu abamo n'abantu banga na Matiang'i nabe serikali yeta mbakore gasi naba era begende kon ko tiga ko support esenginjore gangeriende naga oro machumbe kuyense meriende ono rasimo obe moina na moina lakini nende I believe 2027 mbacho batote inside kibali
onyero yo korokuna na Pauline Njoroge no mumanyite na era kubara lekero gukia ba subati ase county ya Nairobi konyani gara ase kia makirigia Jubilee niga imoke mambia rero oli kaliyo kolia yega ali ateba na bono ne tigirie gusene rusana niria ase kia makirigia Jubilee boni ngana nganyire witia sesemo ya Linda Mwananchi abuna ati tukubeke concentration yae yonsipi na Pauline Njoroge to kwa na yomo no olia abange bakora ateba na gokorora ase Pauline Njoroge ali abuno enkoro yoyo kabiro murayo kane wense ya Kenya Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta abuno enkoro ya yere igo bono aliye na macho ambiwe tazama kingi kworoki
okay amangana
because you want siasa na ande bakora tena litiko siasa litkeli maze siasa neli tambe sana igo to yake gekuba
na bacho batebe lakini wana mangana ya nkoro yo murayo eta Uhuru Kenyatta ndoko manya nkoro ya yeye ngagerete ngano wale na nkoro ya no amangana Pauline abana siasa ngo amabari chichama bache banganye mina bono abande bajoini side abande baruga abande moinari abande bera no ja abana siasa bako genda se bago feelinga interest yabo ngo bereke tadi go segaiga no baranyore ekibakuri asobwangi bona ere kunganya kurwari gocha neri ngaro je ngamoina go senkorigeri bare bantu kia bana inchi bantu kibara aba ange sana na bana inchi asobona igari na mama no maitenga ne bwata ushawishi nkongu munaga Nairobi na nense gweta mara Sifuna rende senata ya Nairobi na are very focal bono ngodware abana siasa bari bande bara bakego si bari baratake go we associate nere ende barenga na barabugo semba yoro bogabe na yegara aranganye kuruga sare ngekia makeri ache kekia Linda Mwananchi
ingene yawe ya mweri gukorera bwesibo bachero bonene bwo mwaka bw'echile fuibera 2025 na kabire na mono asensemo ya siasa kiujumla na magendera
ndatebenga abantu torende sana ndo twara amana abina yechugunzi tunyaligereri sana 2027 twakechukura no marembe IBC I believe nkochere ekorechi chikurechi no bwasioko arafu rende abarai baitu batika mangana ya matusi amange baire ngorake enda naria bananchi barabanje engane yoko egana yoko tumia chibesi nyinge nero erigererwe sana abantu bande bagutumia chibesa kwetekerengo bakachibesa tumaite emesara bakuri igiye kuboringa ngai bakuru chibesi
kwanza IBC nkwara IBC yatebana ebesoga ni rugutume kaswe orio kolgekero kyobora ibwense maximum egani kwa 4.4 billion abange bakagerete na at least limit yengo bekwereti gare nyone 1.5 billion lakini ya bona yabekiro 4.4 billion abuno bono na ndama boli akari na we abaga bakoliye biro gebiga ekene igo muntu naro rogwata 4.4 billion obegete nsemo na hinde inerebesa batige tukocha kutumeka wake campaign paka ile kero yake kyobra ibwezi because 4.4 billion itaribesa ine besa matera rani chika account ya mengima
4.4 billion ni jibesi nyingi na IBC kubeka karenge ya kyochinsa jinde tima tinki yari gereti lakini obara ibo enda kwa tuwane tukutumia besa nyingi yigo notanensi ya IBC tutebinki yari gereti otebane tiabe mnaongo tiga montacha awani sera ya ngora abana inchi kibara mwanje bamwakerekura lakini wana bataba kutumia jibe ni mate na tokana mbara bako chibakore maminja lakini nda bana inchi na mambaligereti na bake bako chabaye kuchibesa bakekura asenje yo montonde oyo mairebesa lakini abange babo mbara bako kuchibesa lakini nituango basabanga batangwira ngorake erinde tore usentu twari uchagusingi
yemero mwanchomo ligelia so sanga twasangire mambia ya bono ekero kirichi ati chireke isano na muchoka chireke chinsa isano na muchia bono mbasana wikira bono to wikira omwaire kulere chinsa 10 ningirane na moya ase enchira yubwenge endera ko bwati na gotengere merobere ndi atigera ase omubaso bono wika chinsa 10 Eliane Ishmael Mogera
Y'Ensoko TV, uboroso bw'umugusi.